Greetings and salutations, everyone. I'm Ekamac. This is another introspective on Star Wars: The Old Republic. Today's main focus is the Republic Vanguard. Its parallel advanced class is the Republic Commando, and its mirror class is the Bounty Hunter Power Tech. But I also want to talk a bit about companions. We've been using them every time I want to show off what a class is like in the field, but they've actually gone through quite the changes over the years. I think the best way to show it, or at least to show one of the things I want to talk about.
Now you're showing off, Major. Enemy launch scuttled.
Our forces were able to secure a path to the Dreadmaster's fortress. The gate codes are functioning.
Then it's time?
Almost. Before you go in, I need authorization for something. I've messed up a couple times, and if I go crazy when you need support, I've strapped on a shock collar. Next time I look unstable, I want the droid here to put me down and take full command.
So we have a moral choice here. We can say, that sounds like a great idea, or we can tell her, no, you really shouldn't be so pessimistic. And it indicates which one is which, just in case you can't tell.
Listen, Sergeant. Our enemy's power comes from fear. If you don't show you're confident, how can anyone here hold it together?
I'm not. This isn't easy. But I'm not letting this mission fail because of me.
Then you need resolve. You need to know why you're fighting.
Yes. Yes, sir. Okay, we're holding a speeder route open. That's taking most of our manpower, so once you're inside the fortress, it's up to you. Not to put on the pressure, but if we don't take out the Dreadmasters today, we lose this sector. And we're all dead.
Death will claim you, regardless. It is time you understood true fear.
Time you faced oblivion. Come.
I saved these people. I stopped your launch. I'm not the one who should be afraid.
Show them how the Republic treats tyrants, sir.
Jedi module expression. May the Force be with you.
So yeah, when we made the moral choice, it said M14X approves. And in reward for doing this mission, we're getting influence with M14X. Patriotic killbot over here. Originally, influence wasn't quite measured like that. There was an effect. I don't recall the specific word, it's been so long, but there was affection levels from 0 to 10,000. As you made choices that companions liked, or you gave them gifts that they liked, it would go up, and you'd unlock new stories, which were also gated by your main story progression. But making choices they disliked, it took away points. So you essentially had to pick out a character that matched with how you wanted to play yours, and keep save scumming to get the results that you wanted, in trying to minimize any dislikes, and just sending everyone and giving everyone else fancy gifts to get them to that max rank. There was also that the companions were in groups of, well, let's open up the legacy here. Companions were in groups of 5. You had a ranged tank, and here it says you can only receive this one for a ranged tank. You had a melee damage, healer, range damage, and melee tank. Plus you also had the ship droid, but who cares about that? And the thing is, they had gear, just like you do. Even though droids didn't wear the same gear specifically, you had to buy specific droid armor parts for them. And while most of them were some sort of tank, the ship droid was actually a healer, and so you had to make specialized healing droid gear for him. So you'd also get character-specific gear as you did side quests on each planet, so you could gear them up that way. But it would only work for one, so essentially you had to just pick one companion and stick with them, or spend a lot of time and effort on easily out-leveled gear for your companions, and it did it. I didn't mind it, but I had so many alts that I could just ship the super gear from that I didn't need all between them and eventually end up gearing up that way. I didn't mind the time sink. Eventually, though, they released an expansion that greatly overhauled character companions. So, companion gear now meant nothing. All droid gear became easily spent, basically became credits that they became junk that you could sell for money. Nothing more interesting to that. Everyone else, her companion gear was purely aesthetic. Instead, their influence and your presence stat, which was already in the game, it just wasn't here. I just haven't mentioned it yet, but yeah. This determines how much health, damage, healing, basically it affects how effective they are in battle. And regardless of whether they approve or disapprove of a decision, reacting to this decision will raise their influence. So you don't have to undo saying something nice. You don't have to undo bad matchup conversations. It works out either way. In fact, it probably means that you're trying to bait reactions out of them rather than saying things to specifically follow through with your character's alignment. And you also had the ability... Basically everyone was considered the same companion. You could set them to healing spec, you could set them to DPS spec, or you could set them to tank spec. And while that is nice because it means you can bring whoever you like and just have them complement your own class, there was a lot of flavor and characters really synced up with your companion sometimes, with your character sometimes, and I always believed that you could make any companion fit to any spec if you were clever about it. But yeah, it's all in the past, it's not changing now. Anyhow, we are actually here to talk about this class, the Republic Vanguard. Technically, ranged and tech type. It's heavy armor proficiency, all the good stuff, but it's actually more of a melee focused class. We'll have to get into that once. Sorry, I forgot to do this. So, let's start at the top. Hammer shots. This is one of the only two actually ranged attacks you're gonna get. Don't blink or you might miss it. Flak shell. Fire a high impact shell that instantly explodes on contact, spraying the area with searing bits of slag that deals kinetic damage to up to 8 enemies within 8 meters of the initial target. Stock strike. Strike the target with the butt of the rifle, dealing kinetic damage. Oh, your resource is energy cells, and for some reason, this consumes them? It's pretty clear that they weren't intending classes to be such a perfect mirror of each other until this point. Until right before launch, I mean. Ion Pulse. Fire an Ion Pulse at the target, dealing elemental damage. It's spammable, but expensive. High Impact Bolt. Fire a very powerful round at the target, dealing weapon damage. Only usable against incapacitated targets or targets suffering periodic damage. Ion Wave. Blast everything in a 10-meter cone with ionized energy, dealing elemental damage to up to 8 targets. Unfortunately, this is one of those cases where flavor has been lost over the years. See, originally it was a channeled cone attack. You could turn while using it and hit multiple people with it. The equivalent was the flamethrower, and this was actually shared between all the trooper/bounty hunter classes. But it got lost because, well, I've talked about Ravage and Blade Dance a lot, just insert those problems here. Over here we have a weird defensive cooldown, Power Yield. Apply a stack of Power Yield to you, increasing armor by 40% and damage done by 2% for 10 seconds. When you take damage, an additional stack of Power Yield is applied. And it stacks up to 5 times. But only the damage bonus stacks. You don't get any more armor for taking damage. And it's a bit weird because unless you're in tank spec, you aren't going to be taking damage. Recharge cells. Recharge 50 energy cells over 3 seconds, so if you overextend, that's how you get it back. Fortification. Increase the target's endurance by 5% for 60 minutes. If the target is a group member, all other group members are affected. You have quick travel, you've got your out of combat heal, and this is something where basically it's like with the bushwhack for the smuggler. Well, scoundrel specifically, because this, it's rather reminiscent of Death from Above. However, it's been balanced for being on a melee class. Artillery Blitz. Call down artillery strikes while unleashing plasma blasts that deal kinetic damage and elemental damage to up to 8 enemies in the target selected area while depleting 30 cells over the duration. Standard and weak targets are knocked down by the blasts. Can be used while moving. So you can see the balancing in play there. Neural Jolt is a taunt. Reactive Shield is basic damage reduction for 15 seconds. Explosive Surge is an AoE spam. Deal elemental damage to up to 8 enemies within 5 meters. It's spammable but expensive. Riot Strike is your interrupt. Cryo Grenade is your hard stun. Roll a Cryo Grenade that freezes the target, dealing energy damage and stunning it for 4 seconds. Tenacity is your crowd control break. Adrenaline Rush. Activating this ability makes you fired up for 60 seconds. It triggers an adrenaline rush when your health is reduced to 35% or less. It triggers immediately if you're already below that threshold. Once triggered, Adrenaline Rush goes on cooldown for 3 minutes and rapidly heals you up to 35% of your max health for 8 seconds, won't exceed 35%. Harpoon. Fire a harpoon line that pulls the target to your location and generates a high amount of threat. It can't be used against targets in cover. I suppose it's supposed to be a gap closer, but you're not going to see it used as such much. Instead, we have Storm. Storm a distant target, dealing kinetic damage, interrupting the target's current action, and immobilizing the target for 2 seconds. It can't be used against targets in cover. Now here's how stupid this is. Originally, this was a tank spec exclusive skill. Now, it's a skill that you learn at in the level 50 to 60 range. So for most of the game, this is going to be your only way of getting people close to you, and it doesn't work on bosses. It's stupid. Hold the Line is weird. Grants 6 seconds of immunity from all movement impairing effects, knockdowns, and physics, and increases movement speed by 30%. It doesn't make up for not having Storm. Over here is Battle Focus. Increase ranged and tech critical chance by 25% for 15 seconds. This is one that I actually remember to use a lot, and that's because of a very specific utility skill that I can stack in it. This is Guard, as you'd expect for a class with a tank spec. Reserve Power Cell. Your next ability depletes no energy cells, lasts for 15 seconds. That's nice. Sonic Round. Fire a sonic round that taunts your target and all nearby targets, forcing them to attack you for 6 seconds if Ion Cell is active. If it isn't, threat towards all current enemies is immediately reduced by 30, and also you've got the enemy players that they have to attack you thing. Neural Surge. Deal internal damage to up to 8 enemies within 8 meters, stunning them for 2.5 seconds. So this is like Terrifying Roar or Ore, but unlike them, this is a hard stun. It's definitely a niche. And then finally, a skill I am actually forgetting to use all the time, Shoulder Cannon. Deploy a shoulder cannon that gradually loads 4 missiles over time. Once loaded, you can trigger it again against an enemy target within 10 meters, launching a missile that deals kinetic damage. The missile can be launched once for 1.5 seconds, but it doesn't respect the global cooldown, and it can be done under crowd control effects. Once you've loaded all missiles, depleting the missiles puts the shoulder cannon on cooldown for 1.5 minutes. So yeah, it's an interesting offhand thing. Also, we have Stealth Scan. It's about as useless as you'd think it is to me. And just to look at the passives. We have a proficiency in power generators and shield generators. Focused Impact. High Impact Bolt ignores 60% of the target's armor. Stock Strike or Shock Strike deal 10% more damage. This was actually shared between the Power Tech. This melee ability was originally shared with your ranged counterpart, the Republic Commando. For some reason they got rid of it, presumably because they, like everything else, got complaints about how this ability isn't any use for us. Get rid of it. It's not harming anyone, but I hate it. I have a pretty low opinion of the people of this game, actually. Into the Fray. Increase the duration of reactive shield by 3 seconds, and suffering direct damage from area attacks regenerates 2 energy cells and heals you for 2.5% of your total health. Can't occur more than once every 3 seconds. And did we have anything else? No, we didn't actually. So now that that's out of the way, let's look at the specifics. My least favorite tank spec, Shield Specialist. Riot Gas. Throw a canister of Riot Gas over the immediate area for 10 seconds. Enemies that enter and remain within Riot Gas are slowed by 70% and suffer a 15% ranged and accuracy loss. Ion Cell. So this replaces the plasma cell that we had that was setting everything on fire when we shot at it with our rifle. Load your rifle with a powerful ion cell, giving ranged attacks a 15% chance to deal additional energy damage once every 1.5 seconds. While active, the armor rating is increased by 61.5%, damage reduction is increased by 5%, shield chance is increased by 15%, threat generation is increased by 150%, accuracy is increased by 10%, and all damage dealt is reduced by 10%. Why do you hate tanks? Ion Overload. Dealing damage with Stock Strike triggers Ion Cell on the target. Dealing damage with High Impact Bolt triggers Ion Cell on the target, and up to 7 additional targets within 5 meters. In addition, when it deals damage, it will also shock the target for additional energy damage over 6 seconds. So it gives you something for your High Impact Bolt to shoot at. None of these effects damage sleeping, lifted, or incapacitated enemies. It generates a high amount of threat. Static Field. Ion Pulse and Explosive Surge cause trauma and weaken on the targets. Weakened targets deal 5% less damage with ranged and melee attacks for 45 seconds. Targets with trauma receive 20% less healing from all sources for 6 seconds. Power Screen. Shielding an attack or triggering your ion cell generates a power screen, increasing shield absorption by 1% for 20 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times, cannot occur more than once every 1.5 seconds. Additionally, each time you build a power screen or refresh your power screen stacks, the active cooldown of Energy Blast is reduced by 1 second. And we hear about that here. Energy Blast fires a shot that consumes all power screens to deal elemental damage, regenerate 10 energy cells, and increase shield absorption by 25% for 6 seconds. This ability is only usable with 3 power screens, generates 25% additional threat, and doesn't respect the global cooldown. Pulse Engine. Direct damage attacks have a 50% chance to trigger Pulse Engine, finishing the cooldown on Ion Wave or Ion Storm and causing your next Ion Wave or Storm to deplete no energy cells and deal more damage. Can't occur more than once every 15 seconds. Shield Cycler. Increased shield chance by 2%. Additionally, shielding or defending an attack generates 1 energy cell. The effect can't occur more than once every 1.5 seconds. Static Shield. Increase the critical chance of Dock Strike and Explosive Surge. Additionally, shielding or defending an attack has a 50% chance to finish the cooldown on Dock Strike. Can't occur more than once every 7.5 seconds. Sorry, 7.5 seconds. Power Armor. Increase damage reduction by 2%, armor rating by 15%, and damage dealt by Iron Cell by 5%. Transpose. This ability is mostly useless. Swap places with a group member and bestow a benign presence upon them for 6 seconds. Targets with benign presence are ignored by most enemies, can't be leaped to or pulled, and are immune to interrupts and ability activation pushback until they use an aggressive or healing ability. This ability is immune to activation pushback, only works on other players. I've never been able to figure out a use for that. Or at least not in the stuff I play. Static Surge. Increased damage dealt by Explosive Surge by 15%. In addition, Storm grants 2 charges of Static Surge, making Iron Pulse and Explosive Surge deplete no energy cells. Each use of these abilities consumes its charge of Static Surge. Oh boy. Ion Shield. Further increased damage reduction by 2%, and additionally Energy Blast damages up to 3 additional enemy targets within 5 meters of the primary target. Doesn't damage sleeping, lifted, or incapacitated enemies. Yeah, a lot of AoEs you'll find have on tanks at least. If they're an important part of the tank rotation, then they have can't damage sleeping or lifted enemies. Anyhow, Soldier's Grit. Adrenaline Rush now heals you for 2% of your total health every second, while above 35% of maximum health. Additionally, Battle Focus increases defense chance by 35% while active. Deflective Guards increase melee and range defense by 4%. Ion Storm replaces Ion Wave. Sprays waves of ionizing energy in a 10-meter cone, dealing elemental damage to up to 8 enemy targets. Affected targets are impaired for 45 seconds, reducing force and tech damage dealt by 5%. Ceramic Plating increases shield absorption by 4%. Shield Enhancers. Stock Strike and High Impact Bolt grant shield enhancers when activated, increasing shield chance by 1% for 15 seconds. It stacks up to 3 times. And finally, Energized Absorbers. Energy Blast increases shield absorption by an additional 5%, so it's not that interesting to me, to be honest. We look at Plasmatic. I'm pretty sure this was the shared skill tree. Shock Strike. Strike the target with an overcharged rifle butt, dealing kinetic damage and releasing a powerful discharge that deals elemental damage. It replaces Stock Strike. Shock Strike, Stock Strike. Not very creative name change there. Ionized Ignition. Shock Strike, Ion Pulse, and Explosive Surge trigger Plasma Cell on all affected targets. So, quick reminder, Plasma Cell. It's here. Ranged weapon attacks have a 25% chance to deal additional elemental damage over 6 seconds, can't occur more than once per second. Reduce the cooldown of Ion Wave by 3 seconds, cause Shock Strike to root its target for 2 seconds. Superheated Plasma. Increase the damage dealt by Plasma Cell by 10% and its chance to be triggered by 5%. Assault Frame. Reduce damage taken from all periodic effects by 30%. Incendiary Round. Launch an incendiary projectile, setting the target ablaze for elemental damage and an additional elemental damage over 15 seconds. Cell Generator. Increase the crit chance of elemental attacks by 3% and regenerate energy cells every 1.5 seconds. Insinuated Orgs. Increase elemental internal damage reduction by 5%, reduce the cooldown on Sonic Round by 10 seconds. Hyper Assault Cell. Activating Shock Strike makes your next high impact bolt an automatic critical hit. Pulse Generator. Ion Pulse, Explosive Surge, and Plasma Flare grant Pulse Generator. Increasing the damage dealt by your next Ion Wave by 50%, causing it to slow affected targets by 45% for 3 seconds. The effect stacks up to 2 times. Plasma Flare emits an energetic plasma burst, dealing elemental damage to the target. It isn't replacing anything for some reason. Rain of Fire. Increase the damage dealt by Incendiary Round by 10%. Additionally, Ion Wave spreads your periodic Incendiary Round effect to the targets it damages if they're already affected by Incendiary Round. Presumably it doesn't do it for Plasma Cell because that's such a short duration it wouldn't have any purpose. Plasmatic Assault. Increase critical bonus of Ion Wave, Shock Strike, Plasmatize, and Plasma Flare by 15%. Adrenaline Fueled. While Adrenaline Rush is active, damage reduction is increased by 30%. Additionally, active cooldown of Adrenaline Rush is reduced by 6 seconds when you're attacked. You can't get this more than once per second. Plasma Barrage. Plasma Flare makes your next Ion Pulse or Explosive Surge deplete no energy cells. Additionally, Ion Wave will now overwhelm the targets it damages. Overwhelmed targets take 10% more damage from area attacks. Plasmatize. Drench the target with a blast of plasma, melting them for elemental damage over 30 seconds. Plasmatize also makes the target susceptible for 45 seconds, increasing the damage the target takes from tech attacks by 5%. When a target affected by Plasmatize dies, Plasmatize spreads to the closest near enemy target within 10 meters not already affected by Plasmatize. It's spammable. Burnout. Increase the damage dealt by elemental attacks by 10% on targets below 30%. Additionally, Plasmatize costs less energy cells. Hazardous Heat. Increase the damage by Plasmatize by 20%. Overcharged Plasma. Ion Wave causes the next Plasma Flare to deal 40% more damage. Additionally, increase the crit chance of Plasma Flare. See, it's been a long time since I properly played this one because all I remember it being is Stock Strike to set it on fire, automatic high impact bolt crit, and just to keep spamming Ion Pulse to keep burns on everyone. This was a relatively simple but also potent PvP spec, to be honest, on this class specifically. There's not an awful lot you can do to get those burns off you, and an awful lot you can do to get out of their range. And finally, the class-specific spec tactics. Gut. Gut the target with a Knuckle Plate Vibroblade, dealing kinetic damage and causing the target to bleed for internal damage over 18 seconds. High Energy Cell. Load your rifle with a High Energy Power Cell. While active, all energy and kinetic damage is increased by 5%. It replaces Plasma Cell. I have a theory that this was actually going to be a stacking armor reduction debuff, but it was changed before launch. I say this because I keep seeing something similar to it on enemies, but it actually causes all of the ranged attacks to inflict an armor reduction effect on you. It's impossible to get off, it's really annoying, and yeah, that's my theory. Anyhow, Grenadiership. Reduce the cooldown of Artillery Blitz by 5 seconds. Additionally, Black Shell deals 25% more damage. Its cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds. The damage it dealt by it will refresh the duration of Gut on the affected target if the bleed is present. So, kind of handy, although 18 seconds. Flex Shell refreshes it. Okay, just checking. Increase the damage dealt by Gut's bleed by 15%, causing targets damaged by Stock Strike to become sundered, reducing armor by 20% for 45 seconds. High Friction Bolts. High Impact Bolt may be fired at targets not incapacitated or suffering periodic damage. Additionally, it ignores 30% of the target's armor, regenerates 5 energy cells if it hits a bleeding target, and refreshes the duration of your Gut's bleed effect if present. The thing is, I'm pretty sure that this is a bleed effect on the power tech as well. which means that while you can support a scoundrel as a Vanguard, you can't support an operative as a power tech. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Tactical Surge. Fire a concentrated surge of energy at an enemy target, dealing energy damage. It replaces Ion Pulse, which is a weird thing because yes, it deals more damage, but now it has to respect the enemy's armor rating. Anyhow, Tactical Armor. Taking critical damage, it grants tactical armor, increasing damage reduction by 2% for 15 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. Riot Augments. Increased damage dealt by Stock Strike, High Impact Bolt, Tactical Surge, Explosive Surge, Gut, Assault Plastique, and Cell Burst by 10%. By this point you might as well say increased damage dealt by 10% because that's practically the entire rotation. Tactical Accelerator. Stock Strike, Tactical Surge, Flak Shell, and Explosive Surge finish the cooldown on High Impact Bolt and make it deplete no energy cells. This effect can't occur more than once every 6 seconds. Wait a minute. So you get the automatic critical hit from Hyper Assault Cell. But here you get the free High Impact Bolt. Okay, I'm not crazy yet. Increase damage dealt to bleeding targets by 5%. Further increase all energy and kinetic damage dealt by 2%. Okay, so that's increasing your base damage, but not the special damage. For Assault Plastique. Throw a moldable plastic explosive that sticks to the target and detonates after several seconds, exploding for kinetic damage. Standard and weak enemies enter a state of panic when the explosive attaches and are knocked down when it detonates. So you remember Explosive Dart? I believe you were able to get this on top of Explosive Dart? So you ended up with the ability to sort of chain a whole bunch of stuns. And you also had the equivalent of Unload. I originally put it in 4. I remember that very clearly. So you could actually crowd control a lot of standard enemies at the start of every fight. I'm always sad when I see abilities have been ripped out of an advanced class, or ripped out at all. It just feels like they're taking the flavor away. Anyhow, activating Sonic Round increases defense chances by 30% for 6 seconds. Night Vision Scope. Increase melee and range defense by 3% and stealth detection level by 3. Havoc Training. Increased critical strike damage bonus of Stock Strike, High Impact Bolt, Tactical Surge, Gut, Assault Plastique, and Cell Burst by 10%. Additionally, when Assault Plastique damages a target, they become susceptible, increasing the damage taken from tech attacks by 5% for 45 seconds. Everything we have is a tech attack. Just about, anyway. Reflexive Shield. When you take damage, the active cooldown of Reactive Shield is reduced by 3 seconds. Can't occur more than once every 1.5 seconds. In addition, when taking damage, you have 20% chance to emit an energy readout, which lasts up to 6 seconds and absorbs damage. That can't occur more than once every 10 seconds. Cell Burst. Unleash your high energy cells stored to decimate the target, dealing energy damage. This damage increases based on your current number of energy loads. Energy loads build up when High Impact Bolt is used, and up to 4 charges may be stored at once. Charged Loaders. Increase the damage dealt by Shoulder Cannon by 15% and immediately load 3 additional missiles. Additionally, this is increasing the critical hit chance of Stock Strike and Assault Plastique by 5%. Critical Recharge. Increase ranged and tech critical chance by 2%. Reduce the cooldowns of recharge cells in Reserve Power Cell by 30 seconds. Additionally, recharge and reload builds energy cells, so that's your out of combat ability. And finally, Cell Burn. Cell Burst causes the target to burn for elemental damage over 3 seconds. it can stack up to 4 times. Each energy load generates 1 stack. So yeah, basically you're trying to fish for 4 stacks of energy load before you hit cell burst. Honestly, I'm kind of unsure whether I'll be able to play this one properly because Vanguard isn't a class that I'm particularly invested in, but I can certainly try. So then, our utility points. Iron Will. Reduce the cooldown of Tenacity by 30 seconds, and the cooldown of Hold the Line by 10 seconds. You recharge 20 energy cells when stunned, mobilized, knocked down, or otherwise incapacitated. When incapacitated, your next tech ability deals extra damage or healing. The effect lasts for 15 seconds. When Into the Fray is triggered, it also deals elemental damage to the attacker if they're within 10 meters. We have so many good things at the less skillful level. Tactical Surge, Ion Pulse, Explosive Surge, reduce movement speed of affected targets by 30% for 3 seconds. Additionally, Neural Jolt slows them by 50% for 6 seconds. Reduce the cooldown of Cryo Grenade, reduce the cooldown of Harpoon, increase Explosive Surge damage by 25%, increase the range of Ion Pulse and Tactical Surge by 2 meters, and the radius of Explosive Surge by 1 meter. For Masterful, when activated, your reactive shield charges with electricity, zapping attackers with elemental damage when they deal direct damage to you. This effect can't occur more than once each second. Increase movement speed by 15%. Reduce the cooldown of Riot Strike by... Range of 30 passive? Reduce the cooldown of Riot Strike by 2 seconds. Additionally, damage taken when stunned is reduced by 30% for Shield Specialist, and damage taken from area effects is reduced by 30% for Plasmatic and Tactics. I'm confused at why it has a 30 range on it, because these don't. Anyhow, Sonic Rebounder. Sonic Round protects all friendly targets in the area of impact, excluding you, granting Sonic Rebounder, which reflects the next direct single target attack back at the attacker. Harpoon immobilizes the target for 3 seconds. In addition, the cooldown of Stealth Scan is reduced by 5 seconds, and targets it reveals are immobilized for 3 seconds. Increases the movement speed of all allies within the scan area, excluding yourself, by 50% for as long as they remain within it, and for 6 seconds after it expires or they leave. Flak Shell reduces the movement of all affected targets by 75% for 15 seconds, but only once every 30 seconds. Paralytic Orgs increase the stun duration of Cryo Grenade by 1 second and Neural Surge by 0.5 seconds. And Efficient Tools causes Adrenaline Surge to be activated. It's activatable while stunned. It purges stun effects when activated. This doesn't work against other types of incapacitating effects or scripted stuns, the latter of which are often used by Flashpoint and Operation bosses or other special NPCs. Additionally, Efficient Tools increases the range of Harpoon and Shoulder Cannon by 10 meters, eliminating the energy cell cost of Cryo Grenade and Neural Surge. I think I want that more than that, actually. So, finally, the heroic of utilities. When Reserve Power Cell is activated, it recharges 10 energy cells over the next 5 seconds, immediately reduces threat to all enemies by a small amount if Ion Cell is active. It increases the threat by a small amount if the Ion Cell is active, or reduces the threat towards all current enemies if it isn't. Hold the Line gets 4 more seconds. Damaging a target with your Shoulder Cannon missile heals you for 3% of your total health. Considering you can do that while stunned, it's got its uses. Power Yield increases damage done by an additional 2% when attacked when Ion Cell is utilized, and refreshes its duration when attacked when Ion Cell is not utilized, but it can't last longer than 30 seconds. Using Storm grants Battering Blitz, resetting the cooldown of Storm and increasing movement speed by 30% for 6 seconds. While Battering Blitz is active, Storm may be used once within 10 meters of the target, dealing additional 50% damage, but not an additional interrupt, immobilize, or charge. Okay, I guess it becomes just a close range attack. You can't get that more than once every 15 seconds. Harpoon deals tech damage to pooled targets and grants pull and pummel, causing your next stock strike or shock strike against the pooled target to deal additional kinetic damage and stun them for 1.5 seconds. Get that effect for 6 seconds. Hold the line increases movement speed by an additional 45% when active. And aim extensions. Battle focus grants aim extensions when active, increasing the range of Ion Pulse, Tactical Surge, Flex Shell, Artillery Blitz, Energy Blast, Cell Burst, Plasma Flare, and Plasmatize by 20 meters. So just about everything gets a range boost during your crit bonus time, which is why I'm so used to weaving that into my opener. You get a lot of interesting things in the utility points for this class, I guess. But all that said, making sure that we have everything where we want it. Close enough.
Master, you'll be pleased to know I added extra padding to all the seat cushions aboard this vessel. I hope you find them comfortable.
Let's take this out into the field and show what it's like in proper combat. We have our patriotic kill droid. We have targets to go after. Let's do this. And again, I'm not expecting to be very good at this. This is I never really go into DPS spec with this class, and I don't even like this class that much to begin with. So let's go. We can start with Assault Plastica at least. I already don't remember how this works. I have to gut him. I guess we could always start with the full charge on Cell Burst. Why not? Dash in. Cell Burst. He was very weak. That was probably a bad idea. We need our old friends. We need to find some champions to kill. Why does the base class have a high threat skill on it? That's what I'd like to know. Full charge. Oh dear. Oh, I know what I'd like to do. I'd like to avoid fighting both of them at the same time. I've proven it can be done, I just don't want to do it. So then, let's get his attention. Yep, I can't crowd control him. Keep forgetting about Gut. 2 power energy globe. Yeah, I'm definitely doing something wrong with this class because I'm hovering way too far through the energy cells. And if you're thinking, that art just doesn't look right, it's because originally you had... originally, Bounty Hunters had 100 heat. Troopers had 12 ammo cells. They tried to keep them as close in line with each other while still having that major difference in resources. It didn't work. So eventually they just changed it over. They made both of them have 100 resources. It just changed whether you were going down or up. I need to pick up some skills first. I didn't have time to read them, I just know that he's on his way back. Actually no, he isn't. Oh man, he resisted it? Really? Let me shoot you already. Definitely doing something wrong with this one as well because we are very much low on our ammo there. Remember originally it was simply triggering the cell at all that would inflict a slow, or maybe it was specifically using the ion pulse, I can't quite remember now. But I guess that was a bit too annoying in PvP to deal with. So, let's go again. Yeah, I don't know the rotation that well for that one either, but don't really need to. Right, so Explosive Surge is what I should have been using there because that triggers the plasma cell. It still isn't that impressive, but it functions, I guess. So, last one. Shield Spec, the thing that I actually know how to play. So wait, when Into the Fray is triggered, it deals elemental damage to the attacker if they're within 10 meters. Reactive Shield also deals elemental damage to the attacker if they're when they deal direct damage. And basically this feels an awful lot like a punishment type class. Or at least potentially. And once again, I need to remember. Swap this back. And I still haven't been remembering to use the shoulder cannon. It's just such a negligible skill for me. I think part of that comes because when they first released it in one of the expansions, it actually had an absurdly long cooldown, so you just forget that it exists. I just put it on a quick bar out of sight and forgot about it. I played this long before I tried being actually good at MMOs. I just played MMOs because it was a time sink and I'm very bad with time sinks. One thing though, currently I have the Sonic Heal Tactical equipped. This heals people nearby the target that I hit with Sonic Round. Thermal Screen is a tank spec specific tactical. It lets us stack up to 6 power screens, and Energy Blast only consumes 3. So let's do it. We can use Smoke Screen to debuff accuracy, giving us a chance of avoiding. We didn't get that, but that's why I said it was a chance. I always use this for the opener so I can hit large mobs with artillery blitz, but really the problem here is that we're just so indifferent to the damage we're taking because this is such a sturdy tank. It's boring, but it's strong. And one final little me thing about this. So, M14X, our friend here, he was originally the ranged tank companion, but he didn't have a charge, he had a harpoon. That was a lot of fun to take him into battle against enemies and just keep spamming and harpoon them back and forth between you and him. You can still sort of do that, but it's not nearly as satisfying as them having an entire hotbar all of their own. Because if you were a tank and you wanted to use the tank companion, they had a DPS mode which reduces their threat generation. You can also, and this is the thing you can still do, right click to turn abilities on or off so they don't use them. So, going in the level of that, you could say turn off the abilities that have specific taunts on them, like Provoking Flare and Reinforcing Taunt. The problem is that doesn't work so well anymore, aside from the fact that they have specified roles, but also they comprise the defensive cooldowns into their active abilities. Like this one here. Taunt the target, forcing them to attack for 6 seconds, gives an Absorb Shield. Activate an explosive that deals kinetic damage to enemies in 5 meters around the user. Reduces incoming damage for 10 seconds. You've got the Harpoon, which is, yeah. And you've got the Powered Charge, which ensures that they'll be in melee. I know, it's just things like that I miss. But anyway, that's enough on this. Next time we're going to look at the final of our classes in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Until then, guys, take care. I'll see you all around.